Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm here today with Shakti Durga. Thank you so much for coming to my office.
It's my pleasure.
So grateful to have met you. And you're here from Australia.
I indeed am, yes.
So could you please share with us a little bit about like your path and how you become the spiritual healer and teacher that you've become?
Sure.
So many people.
Well, in an unlikely way, I started off as a trial attorney and became a spiritual teacher. That was my career progression via being a healer. So back when I was practicing law, I got divorced, which is something I never expected. And it put me through the emotional washing machine. And I didn't have any resources, to deal with it. And someone suggested that I go and see someone who taught meditation and personal development work, which is what I did. And going through that was a life-changing experience. I learned to meditate and, meditated day and night, for years and years and years and years. And it became just part of my life. And I found that the personal development, things like using affirmations and knowing that you have a vulnerable part of self that you need to look after and, shadow work and all these things, it felt like black clouds were being pulled away from my consciousness. And then I had such relief, just this feeling of, I'm going to be okay. This is going to work out. And I had a 2-year-old, and that was, a big thing as well, dealing with being a working mum. And it was a hard time, but the spiritual path got me through it. And I tend to go deep when I like something. So I became a teacher of their work. And then I learned about energy healing through getting sick, as you do. And I had an illness, and for months and months hadn't been able to get better. I had a chronic sort of pneumonia, bronchitis pneumonia, and I was just so sick for months and months, and antibiotics hadn't been able to cure it. And so someone said, go and have an energy healing. And given that I didn't believe in energy healing, that was a long stretch, but I thought, oh, well, whatever, it's going to be an hour of my time. I might just do that. And she released a whole lot of grief that I didn't know was there. And within a day, my pneumonia bronchitis had completely lifted, and I got better. And I thought, whoa, how did that happen? And so then I went on a journey of discovering what's energy healing. How does that work? So, yeah.
I love that you were open to try it, even though you came from a traditional background as a lawyer.
Yeah, that's right.
So you were like, I'm going to try it. You were open-minded to do that.
Yes. And then I had a shamanic journey with a fellow who did crystal healing. And I see all your lovely crystals around the place. It's so nice. Anyway, I didn't believe in crystals either. And I was pretty closed down. But I just was willing to try something and see. I was open, even though I wasn't believing. And in this open state, he gave me an energy healing, and then a crystal matrix was placed on my body and lying down. And I had the most incredible experience of going into a state of bliss and divine oneness. And I realized in that incredible kind of ecstasy experience that I was going to become a healer and have a healing center, which was something that never crossed my mind before that. And anyway, so after probably what was a couple of hours, I came back, into the normal realm. And I just said to him, you got to teach me that. I need to learn that. And so I learned shamanic healing, crystal dreaming, and each of these things I found was fascinating, not only because it helped people deal with their problems and their health issues and their psychological issues, which is great, but also the changes in consciousness we go through because of these things it blew my mind, just blew my mind.
Yes, because people sometimes think it's just like a physical healing, but you're right, it's like the whole consciousness changes with these things.
Yeah, and I actually believe that in good energy healing, you will shift your consciousness. And if you don't, it's probably going to be temporary, that you'll feel good for a little while, but then you'll revert because you haven't actually made a shift, Yeah, so.
Yes, like the root of it has to be found,
the root,
whatever, right?
Exactly.
So the surface cleaning, like root cleaning.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. So, and then you were speaking a little bit about how, like, in our world right now, a lot of people are divided, obviously, right? Like, it's kind of happening all over the world.
Yeah, it is.
And I love what you said about like finding the common ground.
Yeah.
Like, speaking. Could you share a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Well, as a metaphysician, you know, because I've studied a lot of the mysteries since those early days, both Eastern and Western, and the idea of Maya, where we move into a set of beliefs and we inhabit those beliefs, and there's parameters of logic that exist within those beliefs. And within this logic, a certain thing makes sense and other things don't make sense. And so you have a group of people who coalesce together and develop a blob of consciousness that they live in, that then creates their reality. And then you have another group of people, and we expect that they will have the same rational parameters, but they don't. They have a completely other model of what's correct and what's not correct. And it's different, and it doesn't mean it's bad. It's different. But often what we'll do is we will look at that model and go, it's so deficient, it's so bad, you know, they're terrible people that don't adhere to our model, whatever it might be. You see this within fundamentalist religions. You see it in politics, you know, and at the moment, having been here, you know, a little while, but with many, many friends in America, so you sort of notice that people are a bit frightened to talk about anything political in case they get vilified from both sides, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, we need to learn to speak paradigm. And yeah, so if you think about the reticular system in our brain, which is the old piece of brain that we have that decides what stimulus of my day is going to go into my conscious awareness, and what of the 95% of everything that comes into my field is going to go in the subconscious. And we file in accordance with our paradigm. And so if one paradigm is, let's just use the political arena, if I'm coming from a democratic paradigm, then I'll file 5% of the information that is relevant to me maintaining my paradigm, and the 95% of other stuff I don't see. And if I'm in a Republican mindset and paradigm, I'm doing exactly the same thing. And so these 5% of what we kind of see are often a bit sensationalized and quite extreme of what we see of the other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And that we see 5% of what the other party's about, and we're not seeing some of the good that's in the other side. And we're unable to talk about it because we're coming from just our paradigm. We don't get that paradigm at all. So one of the practical things that I've been encouraging people to do is, whether you're a red person or a blue person, that you deliberately listen to the media of the other side. And some of it will be just crazy, but some of it will make sense. And you'll go, oh, so that's where they're coming from. That's what's important to them. Then you have a way of discussing something, because suddenly you have a realization, I see this is, and then you can speak from within the paradigm. And then you can have a respectful dialogue where each paradigm might grow, actually. So that's a practical tip for anybody who's actually interested in avoiding a terrible schism that just gets worse and worse, you know, as people just polarize. Yeah, because then each one tries to control the other one, and things can get worse and worse.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they have, like in the last few years, we've seen the polarization is just kind of growing, right? It's very like, never used to be like this 8 years ago or 10 years ago.
That's right. Yeah, I've been coming to the States now for, I don't know, maybe 20 years. I've been traveling to this beautiful country, which I love. I love the people here.
We're so lucky.
Yeah, so it's been a bit sad to hear the pain, you know, in people who are my friends here, and I just thought, wow, we just got to get on to our spirituality and use all of our spiritual tools. And I think the spiritual people, more than anybody, have a dharma of holding a vision of things coming right. And what can happen is we lose ourselves in the turmoil of whatever the challenge is in the culture we're living in. And we lose ourselves in the darkness and the fear, and we give our power away. And so we need some tools to call our spirit back and to reclaim our power from all that and be steadfast in visioning. Because if enough of us would do that, then we would create a tipping point in the mass consciousness where visioning actually starts to become more like reality. And but it does take disciplined approach, you know.
Yes, and that's something that the tools that you teach people at your school, right? At your mystery school that you have.
Yeah, we have a mystery school, and it started kind of accidentally in a way because people needed stuff, and what started to happen in about 2006, I had a large epiphany, and that's when I realized my name, Shakti Durga, and then Ma Durga, Parameshwari, started to work through me, and that's what happens when I'm leading meditations and healing and teaching classes, that Ma Durga will very often just be there, and she's the one really directing, and she's the one teaching and healing. And so, yeah, she's pretty big on peace. Yeah.
Could you share with people a little about Durga? Because I love Ma Durga. She's my guardian. Would you mind sharing about her so that people know about Durga and who she is?
So you can see Durga in the image that's sitting right above my head, which is a really nice place to have Durga from my point of view. And she sits on a lion, and a lot of the gods and goddesses in the Vedic yogic system will always be riding animals. And so Lord Shiva rides a bull, Ganesha rides a rat or a mouse, Durga's on a lion. And each of the animals represents certain characteristics of the ego and what we need to develop. And so the lion talks about courage, and that we need courage on a spiritual path, and the courage to have hope as well, you know, the courage to hope when everything seems dark. It takes a lot of strength to do that. And so there are many, many, many tools that we can use to get out of the darkness and come into the light. And that's what the mystery school's for. But Ma Durga has also given me instruction in the Western mysteries. So it's not just her own thing, but she also has shown me the Kabbalah, so the Western mysteries. But Ma Durga is all about strength and courage, really, and love that is so unconditional and so pure that her weapons are love, actually. And then she's able to pierce even the hardest heart and create connection and create a sense of oneness. Yeah. And I've learned from Ma Durga that the forces of darkness, which anybody who's been around for a while and who's at all awake will know that there are forces of darkness, that they actually have a role to play in creation, and that their role is to be the strength testing for we humans, because, you know, we're trying to move our consciousness. Actually, to become self-realized means moving your consciousness from I am this within my skin to I am this. I am one with everything. I'm one with you. I'm one with the plants outside. I'm one with the sky. And that's a very exalted consciousness. But we are on the trajectory to move from this isolated egoic consciousness to the vastness of the higher self's consciousness. And so that the dark and the light push and pull us like a washing machine agitator back and forward, but we don't want to lose ourselves to the dark. But it's going to work with us in a way to create that we are different people. We're never going to enjoy it, but they pull us into separateness. And that's actually their role. So we can hardly blame them for the job they're doing, because their job is to pull us into separateness and create fear. Whereas the gods and goddesses and all the great ones, all the holy masters, their job is to pull us into unity. And so there's this pull into unity, and then there's the pull into separateness. And there's many, many tools you can use to come back into the unity. But every time we go through this push me, pull you thing, we come out stronger. And that strength, or the raising of the Kundalini Shakti, is what Durga represents. So, yeah, she represents all that.
Oh, I love that explanation. I didn't know all of that. Wow, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wow. Because you're right, like she does ride on her lion, and in the Hindu stories, like she rides on her lion, the demon that nobody could kill, she finally kills. Mahashura.
Yeah.
I have a buffalo bone there to represent that he died.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And
she
course,
like swallows him whole, right? Like in the end, she kind of like sticks her tongue on the battlefield because nobody could kill him.
Yeah, yeah. So she ends up, dispatching him and liberating him from the consciousness of the demonic back into the consciousness of oneness again. So even the demons are evolving in some way, you know. But, you know, we've got to be very careful. You have to know what you're doing to deal with that sort of energy.
Yes.
But it's very important that we have people in our culture who are properly equipped to help people through the challenges that the darkness creates, you know.
Yes.
And then, but when we weave together the light and the dark, then what happens is we create a golden energy. The gold comes. And in the Western tradition, we would call that Christ consciousness. Mm-hmm. And in the East, they would call it Lakshmi consciousness or Krishna consciousness. Mm. But it's the same golden energy that as we overcome the darkness, as we know that we've grown through a challenge and that we're not going to be taken in by that challenge anymore, you know, we're not going to be tempted into that mistake anymore, that there's a strength in us that wasn't there before. And clairvoyantly, that has a golden glow to it. That overcoming of the negativity and the strength that grows and grows and grows, people become more and more golden. Yeah.
That's the concept of like the golden body, Buddha.
The golden body, yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. So these things are very sacred kind of mysteries, and I believe that every part of the world has some of the mystery, and that, you know, sometimes we need to get out of our own paradigm to find some more of the mystery in, well, what are they doing in South America? You know, what are they doing in India? What are they doing in England? What are they doing in Africa? You know, because there's pieces of the puzzle everywhere. And if you study the mythologies of Isis and Osiris, you can learn so much about reality and yourself and the world. And similarly with all the Hindu gods and goddesses, which is where I've gone deep in my own learning. You know, they say that all the gods and goddesses are within us already, whether we know it or not, and that we're in the process of waking them up. And so that all of us have the capacity to wake up the gods and goddesses within us, and then to be in service to others. And that's a very important part of the paradigm for me, that it's always about, I'm here to help and do what I can to make other people's lives a little better. Mm-hmm. And the joy that comes with that is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that you talk about unity, you know, because that's so important right now. I feel like it's kind of like the world, everybody I talk to about their path, they believe like their path is correct, right? Until they come into unity consciousness. They're like, you have to be a Christian, or you have to be a Hindu, or you have to be, you know, this. But like you said, it's like everybody has pieces of the puzzle.
Everyone has puzzle pieces. And there's a lot of commonality. There's many things that are in common, like do good. Don't do bad, don't do good. Exactly. You know, it's across all the traditions, and be of service to others is across all the traditions, and forgive other people when they have done the wrong thing. These are universal principles, you know, and so they are going to be found everywhere. Yes. And if you love the mysteries, and you love the metaphysical pathways, and you want to work with energy, perhaps you're a healer and you want to become more empowered as a healer, and you would like to have stronger healing energy than you do now, then this can be developed. So a lot of people think that it's all about the technique. And I think technique is important, and we need to learn healing techniques, but it's really the Shakti waking up within you, and the Shakti part and the blessing and the lineage you're working in, and being able to surrender into the lineage with which you're working and allow the lineage to heal through you, which develops the healer and also gives phenomenal healing results. Yeah, so the one modality will have different effects because of who's the practitioner. And what work have they done on themselves.
Like how clear of a channel.
How clear a channel. But also how much of this overcoming adversity have they done? How much have they gone into the darkness and life has happened to them and it's been really hard, and then they've come back from that. So I'd prefer a person who's had that path than someone who's never been tested, who thinks they're just really pure and gorgeous and have no faults, you know.
I love that.
Because they haven't been tested yet, so they don't actually know what they're going to be like when the going gets tough. because they haven't been tested. And that sort of person will usually externalize all the bad, and they haven't done any shadow work, so they see the negativity in other people, but they never for a moment would ever guess that that very same energy is inside them, and if they have never worked with it.
Yeah, it's like understanding our own shadow is what allows us to like have understanding for other people's shadow, right?
Helps develop real compassion and real open-heartedness. So I think that by the time we've been around the block a few times in life, and the older we get and the more things we've had to deal with, if we do it right, we become kind of spacious people. We become kind of lived in, and we become open-hearted. And that's very much where I'm coming from, is helping people to get out of those narrow bands of divisiveness and come into a place where we can understand that everything's got its own place, and that when we have the right thing in the right time, at the right place, for the right reason, everything in creation has got its place, and that we need to be people who can massage things into the right thing at the right time, instead of just saying, well, that whole section of creation is bad, and this section here that I'm in is good. And that applies to religion, it applies to politics.
Yes.
Yeah, and everything else, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's really like me versus them and everything.
That's
and medicine is holistic versus Western, you know, or it's like, and everybody thinks the other side is completely silly, you know, but maybe like we can work together. Like maybe we could actually fix this world that's kind of going through a lot, right?
That's right. Because I think at the moment the demons are winning.
Yeah.
You know, because everywhere you look, there's that separateness. And so we need our light workers to really come to the party and step up and learn the things they need to learn to be empowered themselves to really make a difference in the world through the integration of energies rather than the disowning of energies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you're right. Like, it's kind of like when you get hurt by something from the other side, then it's easy to like, you know, when you hear the right or the left say something about the other, sometimes it just breaks my heart when I hear what they say about each other. I'm just like, oh my God, like, you're going to make people want to commit suicide with the things you're saying about them. Right. But we are in the age of Kali Yoga still, right? So do you, in your perspective and the visions you have, do you see hope for the world? Like, I feel like you're saying you do, because I'm seeing you here, unity.
I do.
Could you share about that? Like how people can have hope in these dark times?
Yeah. Well, even living in a dark age, there's always hope. There's never an absence of light. It's just turned down quite low. You know, so technically what it is to be in a dark age, it's not so much that the physical world is dark. It's that the astral world, the world in which we do our thinking, the astral realm, the natural light setting of the astral world is turned right down, so that the prevailing energy, if you don't do any spiritual work at the moment, the prevailing place people end up is shame, blame, and judgment. That's really what happens. You have to do spiritual work to rise above that in your consciousness. But if we lived in a golden age, then the astral field is turned up until it's very, very golden in consciousness, where love and peace and unity and goodwill are the prevailing energies. And so if you live in a golden age, everything is beautiful all the time. And even if you get really angry with a person, and you would have to work really hard at staying cranky with somebody, because the astral field would just pull you back up into bliss and grace again. I know. I
love that.
I know, but if you think about it, it's kind of easy to live in a golden age because everybody's kind of good. Living in a dark age is the advanced class in life and being a human. So our souls put us here, so there must be a reason. But what happens in a dark age is that there's so much opportunity to shine, because in a dark age, even a tiny little bit of light shows up.
Like a firefly.
Yes, or you light a match in a dark room and it really is bright. Whereas if you light a match on a really sunny day, it doesn't do much to the ability to see anything, you see.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so even our own little lights in a dark age are really super important. And then what happens in a dark age is that it's a faster path to learning about self-realization. It's a faster path to realizing the golden light of Christ. But there's so many pitfalls There's so many places you can get lost and fall off the path and fall into the divisiveness and justify it. People justify all kinds of things, and they feel vindicated. But as their consciousness expands, they realize that there's a twist in what they're thinking, and that they're only seeing part of the picture because the reticular system is supporting them in how they feel things are. They're not seeing 95% of what else is going on. And we're all like that because we're human, and that's the divine design for humanity. And the scientists are reassuring us that that's actually the truth. You know, metaphysics has said this forever, but science, Bruce Lipton and others, they're really wanting us to understand, hey, you know, we are only seeing 5% of any given picture. And maybe with all the social media, it's now only 3% that we're seeing that's going on. I don't know. But in the mystery school teachings of both the East and the West, it's said that we get out of a dark age, not en masse, but person by person will start lighting up. And as one person lights up, their circles of light will get some of that. And then boing, another one will start to light up. And then boing, someone else we know is doing something, and boing, someone else. And so the astral field around that person starts to be much more impregnated with light. And even if we don't talk about our actual path and the things we believe in, just the light within us starts to pop little bits of light happening for others, and then they'll go on their journey. And so we have these vortices of light forming in the darkness. And so it's kind of a lumpy development towards a whole new system of civilization. But and what each of us does is super important, I think.
Like the microcosm affecting the macro.
That's right, yeah. And very often on the path, it can be easy to fall into the view that, what can I do? You know, I'm just this little person having this little life, and, you know, but what can I do to affect these things? But I guess my message is one of hope that says you're important. You know, what you're doing is important. Your daily spiritual practices matter because of the way it's affecting your own energy field. And choosing to learn more about your spirituality, choosing to get a bit more educated about the metaphysics and the different dimensions that exist. You know, that's why mystery schools are set up, so that people who really are seekers can have a safe and nurturing environment for exploring consciousness in a way that is more complex than how the mainstream might be seeing it.
Yes, I love that. So your recommendation is that people are feeling overwhelmed by the world to work deeper on their spiritual path and try to basically expand their own light.
That's exactly right.
To focus inward instead of outward.
Yeah. And the other thing is that the energy centers are really important in our illumination, because it's in our energy centers that we hold our patterns of light and dark. It's all held in our chakra system. And so I think it's a really good idea for people to embrace and learn about the energy field, and to do so in a setting where the consciousness is, we're on a journey to self-realization, not we're on a journey to not having headaches, which is also good.
Yeah, but you're saying that.
But there's more. I'm just saying there's so much more. Yeah. So
would you talk to us a little bit about that, like the moreness, like the potential?
Things? That's right. Well, just take the base chakra. You know, we might be thinking that we are never going to fit in, we're not going to belong, we might be depressed, we might be suicidal, and it doesn't occur to us, wow, you might have something wrong in your base chakra, that your base chakra is actually having a problem.
Yes, and you're right. That's exactly where like the hopelessness, the depression is in the base chakra.
That's it. And that there's many, many vortices of energy going on just within that one center that will affect your consciousness overall, and your connection to nature, your connection to earth, your capacity to feel loved and wanted and valued. It's all going to be affected. So there's a lot to it. And so in my world, working on the energy field and helping people release these things is really fundamental. And also when the blessings come in from the great ones of whichever tradition you're in, say you're working in the Christian tradition, then the blessings from Lord Jesus or any of the great saints or Mother Mary, then they'll come into a field that's prepared, and then it can take root more easily and it can be held more easily.
Like receptiveness, as you're saying, like the person being receptive, the training we do is allows us to receive the blessings from
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So if people are feeling like, oh my God, shifts are not happening, maybe they're just being prepared to receive those blessings.
That's right. Yeah. So we have a program, Centers of Consciousness, which will be running in a couple of months' time. And that's a good place to start if you're interested in learning about your energy field from the point of view of being a peacemaker, being someone who moves from feeling hopeless to hopeful. Then I suggest Centers of Consciousness. It's part of our Ignite Your Spirit program, where people learn about the basics and fundamental tools of energy healing. And then we have more extensive practitioner level training for people who are interested in either becoming healers or becoming very, very established in how to utilize energy and consciousness so that whatever they're doing in their life, they've got this resource that can hold them and help them develop and help them get through difficult times. Yeah, so that their whole consciousness expands.
And they can do that. Everybody can take these classes online,
anyone
right?
can take it. Yeah,
all over the world.
Yeah, so we offer it in 2 different time zones. And my daughter, who runs our Shakti Mission in London, she and I will be teaching it together. And I just love teaching with her because she's just such a beautiful, wise, amazing woman. And so we share the teaching around between the two of us. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And we have many teachers and many therapists, and it's a very supportive environment within Shakti Mission. Yeah, we're pretty active in America and Australia and the UK particularly.
Wonderful. Wow. So and people can go to your website, shaktimission.org or shaktidurga.com.
Shakti Durga, that's my name, shaktidurga.com or shantimission.org. So Shakti Mission's our charity, shantimission.org. And one of the things we do in Shakti Mission is we raise money to pay our therapists to treat people who can't afford energy healing. Yeah, so we give people, 5 sessions and we see whether it seems to be working for them. And if it is, we'll give them more, sort of thing. And we have some wonderful benefactors and people who like to help. And I'm sure that, the karmic grace of helping other people to heal, if you're looking for a way to give, if you're not well and you'd like some karmic grace around that, well, giving to help others be well is actually puts you in the law of flow of healing for yourself.
Yes.
And so it's been great both for those who are giving and those who are receiving, and great for our therapists because they've got plenty of clients, and great for the clients because we've got miraculous stories of healing. Yeah.
I love that. That sounds like perfect, because if people can receive help no matter where they're at financially, right? Like some people can afford it, and some people can't, they still can get help.
That's right.
And that's very Divine Mother like, right?
Yeah.
She's all about compassion.
Yeah, that's it. We make sure everyone's looked after if we can. To the extent of our capacity to give, we give.
Yeah, everybody if everybody does that, all the healers around the world, that would make a big difference.
Amazing,
right?
Just amazing. Yeah. So look, I feel very hopeful, and we just have to remember, try and find some commonality. And there's always going to be different approaches between. There's an old saying, too many cooks spoil the broth, People like to cook differently.
Yes.
And if we mess up someone else's cooking, then it's neither that nor that, And of course, this is on a large scale. We're looking at political processes and how people think that the country should be run, But I sort of keep coming back to, well, we're a democracy. And so if people have voted the way they've voted, then all of us need to help nourish this so that it can be the best it can be. And if we're stuck in our opposition, then our energy will only go into fear. And I always think judgment is like super glue, that if you're pouring judgment on something or someone, that what you do is you super glue them into being like that more. And so in your mind, they become more and more and more of how you're judging them to be. And your reticular system will only ever see them when they're doing that thing, and won't see the 95% of time that they're actually pretty reasonable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that super glue. Yeah.
Super glue.
The super glue is really hard to get off, you know, off your hand.
And that's where the energy healing is fantastic, because you need the Shakti, and the healers are trained to bring in the divine Shakti to actually pull that off.
Could you share a little bit about Shakti, that energy of divine feminine? Because I think that's...
Indeed. Yeah. Well, in Christianity, it'd be called the Holy Spirit. In the Jewish tradition, it'd be the Shekinah. And so it's that feminine potency of the life force, but also every type of power you can think of. So even the power to breathe, that's Prana Shakti. The power to think is Jnana Shakti. The power to have will, Icha Shakti. The power to move and make things happen, that's Kriya Shakti. And then there's Adi Shakti, which is the Shakti of the entire, you know, the great universe in which we live, and how everything keeps moving all the time, and planets and the stars and everything. We have Maha Shakti, which is the power to love. And so we all want to develop Maha Shakti. That's kind of critical to our development as humans. And it doesn't matter which form of spirituality you grow through, but the result will be what I would call Maha Shakti, which is that you're able to love where a lot of people couldn't.
There's an unconditional love.
It is an unconditional love, yeah. And it's coming from a spacious heart. Ram Dass used to talk a lot about it's coming from spaciousness. And I think this is what he was talking about, that we're not running into our own, it has to be like this and it has to be like that, and our own controlling natures, you know, so that we're trying to just loosen that up and find avenues for love that just weren't there before. And, you know, I don't know how you do it without training. I really don't. I've had to have training to learn these things. And so now it's just such a privilege and a wonder, actually, to help others with that journey. So we have a lot of teachers in our mystery school, and we weave in, you know, Indigenous Australian work and Native American work, and, you know, the Bhagavad Gita I see sitting on your shelf there, one of my favorite texts, you know. So yeah, it's a very inclusive kind of pathway in Shakti Mission, and we work with spiritual masters in India. We work with our own kind of growing mastery, all of us. And the angels and the archangels. We have a temple for the archangels at our ashram in Australia. Yeah, and we have people doing ceremony in there every day, sometimes twice a day, 3 times a day. And you walk into this temple and people just cry from the love that is there and the bliss that they feel. It's just, some people fall over even from it, you know, it's just, they go into bliss.
Yeah, no, I love that, because I heard one prophecy once that said, like, all the ancient temples are going to rise again. Like, that's what's going to heal the planet. Like, it seems like you're creating temples and these different people are creating centers where this energy can come into the world, right?
Yeah. And I think, like anything else, a lot of these, there was a lot of destruction of that which was good. And so we go through cycles of light and dark, and we're riding the wild tiger. That's one of the things they say about Shakti, that you're riding the wild tiger, that we're got to be courageous about how it is that we live life. Life is the wild tiger, because you never know what's going to happen today, let alone next week or next year. We have no idea what our future holds. It's a wild tiger. And so the Shakti training is how do you ride the wild tiger? And that's what I see Durga doing with effortlessness, with grace, and also with unending hope, you know. Yeah.
Wow, the wild tiger. Yeah, because tigers are very hard to tame, but they need really strong spiritual tools to be able to ride the tiger.
Yeah. And then as we progress, we find that inside our own hearts, there's just a bubbling up of love and joy underneath everything else. And that it isn't because we're in delusion. It's not because we are unaware of the problems going on around us, but it's because we're in connection with our core, with the essence of who we be, which is divine. And so once we realize our connection to the divine, we're able to be present in the world in quite a different way. And so that's what we try and help people with.
Yes, to connect to their own inner divinity and to live from that consciousness.
Exactly.
Yes. And I'm just curious, because you're following the divine feminine path, because I used to always think for certain that God was a male.
Yeah.
And then 9 months ago, I had a vision where Divine Mother told me she created the whole universe.
Yeah, right.
So I'm confused now. I'm just curious.
Look,
if you want to share any thoughts about that.
Yeah. For me, it's very much a chicken and egg scenario. What came first, the chicken or the egg? And it's an unanswerable kind of koan, if you're Buddhist. You know, the koan is the question that doesn't really have an answer until you expand your consciousness. And when you expand your consciousness, you go, oh, like that. And something will be revealed to you. And see, here's another twist in reality, is that we have the assumption that, you know, when I grow up and get enlightened spiritually, I'm going to be like this, and therefore so is everybody else. But actually, the reason why there's so many gods and goddesses modeled to us is that no, some of you will be like Durga, some of you will be like Shiva, some of you will be like Lord Jesus, some of you will be like Kuan Yin, some of you will be like Isis, some will be like Osiris, some will be like Ganesha. You know, we're all going to be different.
Based on like people's inherent personalities, they'll become, they'll be their God self.
Yeah, that's right. So people who've got really strong tendencies towards discipline and stuff, you know, some of the Buddhas are very much in the bhav of the discipline. Yes. And then there's other energies that are much more in the bhav or the energy or the fragrance of love. And then we might be anywhere on that spectrum, but one thing we will have in common is the capacity to merge with each other and help each other, and not be judgmental of each other, but in fact to honor the differences.
Exactly. That's how, like, exactly like we said, like that's how I always measure someone's spirituality, is how tolerant they are of like other paths too, right? It seems like I was talking to one of my friends that works at a Hindu temple, and he's like, we believe everyone that's not Hindu is gonna like die. And I'm like, I don't think so. That doesn't sound like the God I know, you know.
Well, the thing is, I've met some Christians who think if you're not Christian, you're going to go to hell.
Exactly.
And the Hindus think they're the only ones, and the Jews think they're the only ones. Yeah. But the more enlightened ones don't think that. And the people who enter into the mystery schools in any of the faiths, they don't think that. They know we all meet, and we all meet in love, and we all meet in the exquisiteness of being able to discuss such deep things with each other, with a fascination about, oh, wow, you do it that way. Wow, that's amazing. And we do it like this. And being able to sit with each other in how we do things, it's really profound.
And that deep sense of honor for each other, right? Like, wow, you got to, you're a kind person, so your path must have worked. It's kind of how I think. I'm like, if you're a good person, then obviously your path worked.
Yeah, that's it.
If you're not a good person, obviously your path is not working. You might need to switch it.
But they'll think it is working.
They think it's working.
Usually,
yes. But they're living
inside their little consciousness where they'll see their good bits, but they won't see any of their shadow. Even when it's almost engulfing them, they won't see it. They'll just think it's everybody else.
Exactly. And that's why you were saying like the asuras, the demons are almost like, it's almost like they come to test people to help them see that part of themselves. Like if you're encountering a lot of dark people, then there's a part of your darkness you're learning from them.
You're not seeing it in yourself. And when you do see it in yourself, it's great to be able to go to a priest, a priestess, a healer, a wise person to help get through it. You know, you don't have to do it by yourself. But the ego and the darkness will try and pull you into separateness. Oh, I have to fix this myself. I can't let anyone see this problem that I have. It's too embarrassing. I feel so much shame. But instead we have to try and work our way through that and go, you know what? I'm a human. I've got growing edges by definition. You can't be a human and not have places where you're still growing.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how enlightened you are. And so you still got growth. And so, wow, isn't that an exciting thing, that because the divine's infinite, our capacity for growth is infinite, which excites me no end and frustrates the hell out of me sometimes. you know.
Yeah, both.
Because you think,
like, I
get
finally
there.
got it, but
Yeah,
no,
that's
there's
right.
another thing I got to work on. I got
That's
this
it.
thing I got to work on. They're just all these parts of character defects, you know, like in 12 steps, I call them character defects.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like,
Yeah.
I'm still this, I got to work on this, you know.
But everything that we do, every investment we make in coming into the woven, you know, that we're weaving a basket of light, but the weaving is a golden basket where, you know, you've got to have a pinch of the dark as well as a whole lot of light to make it work. And if you think about it, I often think if you're cooking a meal, then the light is the vegetables and whatever else you eat that's very nourishing. And the spiciness, that's the dark. You know, the bit of spice is needed to make life operate, you know, and to make it interesting. But you wouldn't want to eat a whole bowl of pepper, you know, you just don't want to eat a bowl of chili.
No, definitely not. Yes.
You don't want to hang out with that. But a bit is really needed for our evolution, because you've got to remember that whilst our egos are very attached to safety, security, and control in our own ways, the highest soul is all about wisdom. I want to be wise, and I want to give a lot to other people, and I want to serve other people, and I want to help other people be happy. And that's when you're coming from your higher soul. And then those two are going to have a tug of war all the time. There's going to be a, you know, like, oh, I might do some tithing. Well, I'm going to take a bit out of that first because, you know, and then we don't do tithing because we're worried about something. And then we miss the opportunity of the law of flow and what that could bring us if we did do our tithing, you know. And so these are all things where the ego is going, but it's too scary, you know, I'm going to be left with nothing. And then the higher soul's going, come on, there's spiritual laws, just use the spiritual laws and everything will turn out okay. You know,
it's like the secrets to abundance, right? Like I always tell people, like if you're having money problems, start helping the homeless, and somehow your money will start flowing.
It will.
It's like that's the trick, right? It's like people get tighter, but instead we should be even more giving when we're having challenges.
Exactly.
Right?
And the number of people who tell me amazing stories about changes that happen when they start tithing, and how, you know, even people who've had lifelong money issues, they start tithing to good causes, and
because that's important, to good causes.
You don't want to just chuck your money away, but you give to, you know, if you're ill, you tithe to places that heal. And, you know, if you want self-realization, tithe to temples, or tithe, you know. And if you want to be more educated, tithe to schools. And if you want really quick help, feed people.
That's the people that don't have food. That's quick help. So people are in dire need. They should take food for the homeless, for example. Oh, I love that. Yeah, because these are spiritual, not like tricks, but spiritual tools for money. Like they're kind of like, right?
Well, it's just how our universe works. And so from our egos, we don't want it to be that way. You know, we don't want the world to have light and dark in it. We only want it to have light. You know, that's the ego's thing. But yet the ego is more prone to listening to the dark than it is to listening to light.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the ego gets so frightened. Because it only lives once, you know, and so it doesn't come again. When we reincarnate, it's not the same ego. It's a different one. The soul makes a whole new one. So every single life, even if we've done tons of work in past lives, every life we get a new ego, and we've got to break in a new ego, you know. So we've got tendencies.
With our ego, right? Like based on the traumas we have every lifetime, that ego is getting shaped. Right. Wow.
So amazing, isn't it? You will have tendencies towards whatever work you've done before. You know, some people are naturally altruistic. They don't have to be taught. They just naturally are like that. And that's because of the growth from other lives, you know. So it comes into their new ego vehicle, but it's still not the same ego vehicle.
That's amazing. And I'm wondering if you feel like we could give people maybe like an experience today, like some kind of meditation or prayer. Like I love what you did at the Temple of Clarity when you were blessing the temple. That felt so good. But if there's anything you feel called to do, something people can feel the energy.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So if you're watching now, just get yourself somewhere comfortable, and maybe you want to sit on the floor, or you want to sit on your seat with your legs, your feet on the ground. And if you feel comfortable too, you can just close your eyes And I'm going to call on Ma Durga and ask her to bless you all. So I think that's what we'll do.
Wonderful.
So we call on the Supreme Being, Divine Mother and Father. We call on our souls and the divine within. We call upon the vastness of the divine feminine, Parameshwari, Supreme Feminine Spirit. We call upon Ma Durga, Jai Ma Durga. We call upon Lakshmi, Divine Goddess of beauty, harmony, and wealth. And we call on Saraswati, Goddess of wisdom, who creates new things from consciousness. We call upon Mother Earth, the great goddess of Eartha, Bhudevi. And we call upon the sun and the source of all of our life for this earth. And we ask that the radiant golden sunlight flow through us and be developed within us. And we now ask for Ma Durga to help us and guide us, protect us, and bless us. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. So I'm going to call her in with a mantra. And this mantra is many of the names of Ma Durga, and utilizing a 12 chakra system. But I'll just do it. I'll do the mantra and you can just feel the energy of it. Om Devi Shailaputri Namaha. Om Devi Brahmacharani Namaha. Om Devi Chandraganta Namaha. Om Devi Kushmanda Namaha. Om Devi Katyayani Namaha. Om Devi Skandamata Namaha. Om Devi Kalaratri Namaha. Om Devi Mahagori Namaha. Om Devi Siddhadatri Namaha. Om Devi Shakti Amma Namaha. Om Devi Parameshwari Namaha. Om Devi Parvati Namaha. Hari Om. Sarva Mangala Mangalye. Shive Sarvata Sadike. Sharanye Trayambake Gauri. Narayani Namostute. Oh. And then just breathing into your heart center. And if you want to, you can ask for help with developing the golden grace and dealing with any darkness in your life and transmuting it through victory over it into gold. So if you wish to, you can do this with me. You can say, I ask Ma Durga's help and her guidance and support in overcoming the forces of darkness and separateness and freeing my spirit to have victory in unity, wisdom, harmony, and grace. And I ask this in full faith. So be it. And breathe deeply in and releasing. Very good. And now breathing into Ajna chakra between the eyebrows. And just feel Kali Durga's presence there as Mahakala, the divine goddess of time. And just breathing in. And a lot of us are very terrorized by time. Actually, we get anxious about time. We feel time is short. But from the divine perspective, we have all the time in the world, literally. And from the divine perspective, time doesn't really exist. It's only that we believe it and that we are in the physical dimension where it operates things for us. But it also has many portals. There are portals within time. So just say, I now release all fear of time. fear of being short of time, and not being in the right place at the right time. And I set myself free to abide in the grace of time, to be one in unity with Kala Ma, Om Kala Ma, Om Kala Ma, Om Kala Ma, and breathing into your Ajna chakra, and let that come right through your whole body. Very good. And just say, I have all the time in the world. I have all the time in the world. I have all the time in the world. Time is my friend. Time is my friend. Time is my friend. And say, I choose to live in hope. And I call on the angels of hope to live within me and all around me, and to be with me in a timely way. I ask this in full faith, and so it is, and so it is, and so it is. And then just breathing slowly and deeply, and just releasing any anxiousness, any fear out through your hands and feet. And just feel the tingling energy as Ma Durga comes to help you and support you in your life. And releasing up and down your spine, particularly out through the base of the spine. That's it. And just releasing whatever it is holds us in separateness. And let's just have a new set of instructions for our reticular system. Instead of looking at what divides us, ask your brain, your reticular system in your brain, ask it to find what unites us, even when faced with people who seem very different to us. Let's look for what we have in common. Let's sacrifice and surrender sensationalism, surrendering our anger and our fear. And let's look for what unites us. And breathing in slowly and deeply, and then releasing from your whole body the old energies, and asking Ma Durga's help to have victory over all of the forms of ego, separateness, darkness that hold us back from our true destiny and potential. And just a couple of deep, slow breaths. And just being aware of your own being, awareness of your body, awareness of your mind, and aware of God, Goddess, in the name or style that suits your heart the best, where your most love is right now. And just feel that God, Goddess in your heart, and the grace and the joy and the victory already that we can feel the divine in our hearts. And allow that feeling of divine to grow stronger and stronger. And smiling at the divine, smiling at your heart, which is home to a deity. Your own higher self and all of the higher self's friends, gods, goddesses, archangels, great and holy masters, gurus, rishis, saints, sages. And although we are all meant to be different from each other, we have so much that we can enjoy that is similar or the same. And let's enjoy both the similarities and the differences. May we be blessed with a fresh consciousness and a fresh pair of eyes to look at our world through a fresh lens. And may we commit to the journey of self-realization and illumination, and to loving even more than we ever thought we could, loving unconditionally. And right now, to complete our practice, just sending love to someone in your life who you really love and it's easy to love them. And you agree with each other on so many things, and you can come from light or understanding and easily understand each other. And send them love now. Beautiful. And now thinking of someone who you don't understand and they don't seem to understand you. It doesn't matter what you say, they don't get it. That's because we're using light. Instead, we use love. Love this person. Send them love, because love unites us and gives us something of a base to explore what we have in common. And so the challenge for you now is to send love to someone that you may have considered unlovable. And may they feel loved, and in feeling loved, may they be open to hearing what you have to say. And may you be open to hearing what they have to say, because something that they say will be actually sensible and helpful to you, even if much of what they say is not. And may these blessings flow, and may the blessings flow into all of your own circles of light and life. May you be divinely guided and protected. Jai Ma Durga, Jai Ma Durga, Jai Ma Durga. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Oh, so beautiful. I'm sure that we're going to receive the healing and we can lay down.
Yeah. And they can do it again too, because the blessing will be in it every time it's viewed. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to say as the final words as we're wrapping up the video?
I think it's just understanding that we're in a cycle, and that what we do, what we think, what we feel matters. Our spiritual practices matter. And being able to hold love in ever-expanding circles, that really matters. And hold your vision of how you'd like things to be, no matter what it looks like. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.